Today is April the 14th, 2014. My name is Tanya Finchum along with Alex Bishop. We're with Oklahoma State University. And today we're in Pryor, Oklahoma to speak with Elizabeth Hammer. And this is part of our 100-Year Life project. So thank you for having us today. Let's start with beginning. Tell us when and where you were born.
Fairland, Oklahoma, December the 31st, 1913.
So you are already 100 then.
Yeah.
And what did your parents do for a living?
Well, in younger days, I don't really know. But my father was the youngest of 9 kids. And he lost his parents at an early age. So his bachelor brothers and his 3 sturdy sisters that had married really well took care of him and made a home for him until he was almost 18.
So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 3 sisters. 1 died in infancy and then 2 to mature.
And where in the birth order are you?
The oldest one died and I'm second.
Second, okay.
And then the 3rd and 4th already passed away.
Did your father work on a farm or own a
Well,
farm?
He married my mother and she had her allotment, Cherokee Indian allotment, and the brothers knew that, so they wanted to teach him to farm. So when I was young, I remember this too, and this was before World War I. War and rumors of war, so they said, you better learn how to farm. You come move in. And so we moved into Uncle's place. Both uncles moved upstairs and let us have the first floor. And they provided, what you'd say, a livelihood. My mother raised chickens and had an income of her own. I do remember that, gathering up the eggs, a lot of them, every day, big buckets full. But what I'm saying, they allowed him to have the income of 80 acres of wheat land, and we lived there. And he didn't. He got his card to go into the service, and at that time he had 2 daughters and 1 on the way, and he had to meet with I guess you'd say, the board in Muskogee. And I want to tell you what, this will just knock you down. He had 3 brother-in-laws. It took 7 to be on that. It wasn't a rationing board. What do you call it? Anyway, it board to decide whether you, when you got your card, if you wanted to protest it, you met with the board in Muskogee. And my daddy had 3 brother-in-laws was on the board out of 7. 5 was a quorum, always would be 5. He had 1 from Miami, 1 from Fairland, and 1 from Pryor. They wouldn't believe that, nobody else would. But anyway, that's just nice to know. Mm-hmm. But you see, he was farming at that time. That was in 17, he'd already started, see, like 2 years older. But they were pretty, my daddy's folks were the educated part of my life, and my mother's folks were Cherokee Indians, and they didn't take education too seriously. They liked the music and all that. What else?
Besides gathering eggs, did you have other chores?
Oh, well, I didn't have any chores. See, I was young, but I lived it there. I just thought I'd just clue you in on something.
So your mother was full Cherokee?
No, half.
Half Cherokee.
Her daddy's full-blood. Her mother is Irish, full-blood Irish.
Had they come to Oklahoma from some other
Oh, yeah,
part?
of course. They came on the Trail of Tears.
Okay.
I mean, the grandparents.
From North Carolina? Or?
Well, I really believe I have it down in what section it's from, but my grandfather's mother and daddy both were on the trail.
Counting back.
You don't know their names and all that?
Only if you want to share them.
Well, my grandfather's mother was Rachel Kingfisher. And her daddy's daddy was Cullacare Smith. And I'll have to guess this other man's name. I think his name was John Miller. They all were on the trail. And when they grew up, now, as I get it, they were in teenagers, like young 14, 15, see. And that's the age that can stand all kinds of weather. And they survived it. And Rachel married John Miller first. And they had one child. And he died. And then she married Cullacare Smith. And they had split. Now, I was told, just recently, there was 7 kids. And I have recognition of knowledge of just 4. And it's 2 girls and 2 boys. And here lately, grandfather's sister, great-granddaughter surfaced, and she wants to know some information, so she's coming in next month from California. She was told by another second cousin, that if they wanted to know anything firsthand, that I would know it. And what I know, I'll tell them, and what I don't know, I'll tell them I don't know it.
Well, when you were little, where did you go to school?
Well, we didn't go to school where my uncles, where we lived in. I was almost 7 before I started school because of the distance to school. Mom wouldn't let me ride a horse to school 4 miles. So.
Well, when you did go, where did you start?
Hickory Grove, and that was in Delaware County. Hickory Grove, if you know anything about Grand Lake, do you know anything about Grand Lake?
Not a great deal.
Do you? Well, you should go to Grand Lake to see what it's like, just for the heck. But anyway, Grand Lake is at Grove. Mm-hmm. And you cross the river from, now when I say river, Grand River was formed by 2 other rivers, Spring River and those 2 rivers met east of Miami and formed Grand. Neosho was from Missouri area, and Spring was from Kansas area. And where they call them twin bridges, east of Miami, they come together. There's a bridge over each one of them before they mix Grand River. I've always lived on one side or the other on Grand River. My mother's allotment was on Grand River. Okay. Hickory Creek was on one side. I think she got more acreage on account of it, the way it was. It was kind of section line in front of, separated us from the land that she inherited. I say inherited, a lot of allocated there. And Hickory Creek on this side, and we lived on a rising, I don't know what you call a hill or not, but it's still in surface where we lived. So it's high enough that Grand River didn't take it down, nor neither did Hickory Creek. I've been there by boat. It's marshy. Mm. The trees are, well, they're living really good, but you can't get out. It's just marsh.
Was it a 1-room schoolhouse?
No, 3.
3.
It's there yet. If you step around, let me tell you what to do. If you step around on the wall, you'll see how much of a granny I am. I have pictures all over the wall.
When we finish up, we'll go take a look. Okay.
Let's just do it right now. Let's let you look. he's not interested. He's asleep. Coats and shoes and all that for winter. But my daddy said that he'd let me have the first. You see, he was a farmer. Farming Mama's allotment land. He called it just our farm. And we lived on it, and as I told you, we was close to Grand River, across from Grove. So he supplied feed for Riley Sparkman's feedlot. And what I'm saying, there's a natural crossing on up and down the river. There's always been natural crossings. Early day people found it out. And when I say natural crossing, the base of the river was rock. When you say a natural crossing.
Okay.
Yep.
So he supplied, so he told me, that I would have the first load and I could have $1. And I told him what I wanted to do with that $1. So this particular time we was all at across the river in Grove, and my daddy gave me my $1. And I went in the drugstore and bought this. It's Diarman.
And you've kept it all this
No,
time?
no, my grandson. No, mine got lost somehow. But anyway, and Mom said, let me see. So I showed it to her and she said, you have to take that back. We can't afford that. So my daddy, as I remember, we had a woman or two here, visiting. And my daddy just took one step. He said, Rachel, I promised her $1. And she could have. That was all there was to it. I kept my $1. So I told this Alan, and he got on the internet and got me a box. Now he had to pay through the nose for this box, but that survived, and I was 12. So you see, 12 years old makes it 88 years old.
Special.
Yeah. That's one of my Christmas presents. How do you like that one?
That's nice. So where did you go to high school?
Well, we got out of that bottom when I was 14. And Mom sold her allotment. When I say she signed the papers. Sold her allotment. And they bought a place in Mays County between Pryor and between Shoto and Locust Grove on that side of the river, bottom. I've always lived on one side or the other. And with my daddy living his youthful life at Shoto with his aunt. See, they came to Pryor in 1903. And in 1903, my uncle was hired to be a bookkeeper for Gray and Adkins. And that was early day pioneer store. They had everything. I would say they came here before that, of course, about 25 years ahead of that. But he got a job. So the family moved to Mays County. So with his affiliations, he wanted us to go there instead of Locust Grove. With mileage, it was about the same, except we were on that side of the river. So we didn't have transportation. We had a pickup, and a pickup was only transportation. We didn't have a car. And my sister started school the same time I did, when I was back in Hickory Grove, when she was 5, and I was nearly 7. So we went to high school together, and they rented a room in the Gray house. Now this gentleman called Adkins and Gray, but Gray had long been dead, but his big mansion house, we had an apartment there. They had rented to, well, Fern and I had a room, and there was another girl that came in, her sister came with her, that stayed with her so she could go to school. 2 apartments, they could have 3 upstairs of this big house. So I guess you'd say we had rented an apartment in Shoto for 4 years. see, going to high school 90 years ago or 80 years ago was, I guess you'd say, a sacrifice for young kids to go to school. Well, it went in transportation for one thing. And then another thing, everybody that was born didn't go to high school, you know that. No.
What year did you graduate from high school?
1932.
And then what did you do?
Went to Northeastern
Oh,
and
okay.
earned a certificate, 2-year state they called it, 60 hours, almost 60 hours. No, it was 40 hours. It was 40, I think I had 45. I went from September till September, including August extension, which gained 5 hours. Boy, you really worked those August extension. And I taught school those first 2 years by myself. I've taught a lot of years by myself.
What did you teach?
All grades from 1 to 8.
And subjects?
Well, yes.
All of them.
But let me tell you something. I had a good Methodist teacher that told me you could combine an awful lot. You have to have reading every day. You have to have math every day. You have to have spelling every day. Everybody. But you can use the big kids if they're good, like 8th graders and 7th graders. So if you use, they'll work like crazy and do their work. But I'm going to tell you something, it's hard on a teacher to do all that. So she taught me how to map it out and how to correlate it and all that. And so I saw to it, I heard them once, everybody. Now, in the reading, you could read whatever book you might want it to be an English lesson, or you might want it to be a geography lesson, or you might want a health lesson. Whatever it is, that particular reading, writing is all combined in that area. And so everybody has to have math, and everybody has to have spelling. So this the 7th and 8th graders, I didn't have many, but the lesser you have, the better. And they'll work like everything and do a nicer job. We're no messing around about it, but everybody, all the written work I looked at and graded. And that's one of the main things you better do. If you're going to do an assignment, you better grade it and record it. I learned that early. She taught me some things about discipline that worked with me all my years. She said, the lower your voice, the better it sounds to the kids. Oh, several good things.
Well, what are the other things? It'd be interesting to hear.
Well, that's one of them. And she said, it's best not to make a lot of rules. And then she said, it's best not to do anything that you can't back up. Don't get yourself on a limb and then get the limb cut off. Or a lot of things. But the main thing, she says, and don't sweat the little stuff. And when I taught junior high over Claremore, I taught over there 15 years. Science in the junior high. And I used all of those. It worked. And my principal said, he thought Miss Hammer was a natural as far as discipline was concerned. But you lower your voice. My voice carried anyway. I could just speak just enough for you to hear me in the kitchen. Not very loud, but they can hear it. Not now. I don't have a good voice at all now. I had 2 carotid artery surgeries, and it's done something to my voice. Strength of it. Don't have it. What else you want to know?
So how long did you teach?
Oh,
35 years or so?
oh yeah, but not 40, but I taught in, well, let's see. I taught 1, 2, 3, 4 as the principal. So when I went to Claremore, they needed a teacher. And somebody referred me, and they said they knew I was qualified, but they didn't know whether I could do it or not, because I thought I was going to take early retirement. Well, we'd already educated the kids, and so he said he didn't think I needed to teach if I didn't want to. So I thought I was going to stop for a little while. So I'm talking about World's Fair in '62. We went to the World's Fair, and while we were gone, we was gone a month. Of course, we wanted to see everything between here and the World's Fair in Seattle, Washington. And so while we were there, on the way back, we visited some friends in Montana not a week, about 5 days. And our in-laws here, or Elsa's brothers and family, knew that we were going to visit them. So when they came over here to talk to me about it, the superintendent was told that we would be visiting in Montana before we came home. So he called, and we left Montana that morning. But we didn't get the message, and we wouldn't have rushed it anyway, because we stopped different places on the way back home. But when we did get back, I was to notify them, and I taught 3 days. I started through the middle of the week. 3 days. I thought it was just a substitute job, and at the end of that time, could I substitute another week, the next week? I guess what they was doing to see if I could handle it or not. And so at the end of that week, I had a contract. That's the way that happened. But he was told, he said, I know she's qualified, and she's been principal for several years. She don't know how to handle kids.
Well, over the course of those years of teaching, things changed a lot, I would think.
But I loved every day of it. The principal said I made better lesson plans than anybody. And you know, the funny thing about it, in the beginning, there'll just be a few teachers. Now, when I went to high school, 4 teachers handled the whole thing. Now then, I bet you 3 dozen wouldn't catch it. That's right. There's this and this and this and this and this. There's too much of this and this.
Well, what were a few of the other things that changed in the teaching role?
Well, that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
No, you see, that was a new experience, just one class.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that one class business. It made me know my business really good.
School lunches changed a lot during that
Well,
time?
yes, I probably so. I didn't have much to do with the school lunch program.
Well, let's back up and tell me how you met your husband.
To be real honest, let me just tell you this. My uncle, Crockett, had Crockett and Jackson had the store here. Crockett and Jackson were partners. My husband's father was partnered with Jackson in stockyards, buying and selling livestock, mostly buying and shipping it. All right. When we moved to Mays County, I was 14, and my sister and I and my parents would come to town. We'd always go to the Crockett store. It was kid folks, and they had our little, well, in old-fashioned stores, they used to have all the stores in the office. We'd have to climb a little step back in the corner. You've seen that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we had here. That's what they had. The nicest store in town, Crockett and Jackson. Grocery and meat market and all that. All right. Ellsworth finished high school in 1927, had gone to business college. But anyway, he wasn't in, he'd already graduated, but had gone to business college, but back. And he knew who the Crockett kid folks was that moved in the county. He knew we lived on a farm and all that. All right, let me grow up now. So we moved when I started freshman in high school. So when I was a senior, he helped the teacher in the area where they lived out in the country. The ranch house is still there, big, nice ranch house. Ellsworth folks had a little bit more than the natural cut. Big house, big ranch, big everything. 4 boys. And he let me grow up, he said. I didn't know him at all. And so when I came home, now 1936, see, we moved here in 28. So that made me 22. I guess Ilsa never been married, never been involved. They were, Mr. and Miss Hammer themselves didn't marry early. They were, like 30. I think she was 30-something, 3 maybe, when she married Mr. Hammer and came to this country. Mr. Hammer, Elsa's dad, came to this area and scouted it out. He first went west of Anita, then around Sapapa, then meandered up Mays County, and decided this would be the place. So he established himself, always writing her a letter and telling her the progress, and then married him. I mean, he went back, married her in December, and they moved in. Already situated. So, what I'm really trying to get around to tell you, they didn't marry early. The boys didn't. They didn't. I think Marvin married first, but he came. So when my sister and I came home from college, see, we did our college work by piecemeal. Teach, go to school, teach. Right. And I didn't stay for August. We didn't stay for August extension. We just did the summer session, 9 weeks. So we were home. So my sister had an appointment already, and she was ready for company. So when Ellsworth came, this hot August the 9th, 19, and no, that wasn't it. It was July yet. Anyway, she was ready to receive her guest. So Elsa came, and while he was talking to her, her date came up, and so he knew it. So he just got in his pickup and drove on across the river to the Arterbury store and camping grounds. It was a big to-do. Everybody liked to be there for picnics and sit there camping. So we had a campground, and everybody knew it. They'd been well established. So they knew him too. Okay, where in the world, Ellsworth, have you been, and where are you going? All the rest. Well, he said, I went over to Purcell's, but he said, I got dismissed pretty quick, just kind of smooth. He said, I'm needing a Coca-Cola. I'm needing some pop, he said. But anyway, and they said, oh, we know who you talk to. Now, Ellsworth, if you're interested, he said, I'm interested. He said, go back in about a week or 2, because Fern will be going to her school, and Elizabeth's going to be, she won't be, she'll be a night. And so I'd wait if I was you about a couple of weeks. So July the 9th, 1936, he came back. I didn't know he'd even done it. I didn't know what the Arterburys had told him. See, I didn't know any of that. So there he came. I was raking the yard, believe you or not. Hot day. And so he came early enough, as I told you, all slicked up, white shoes and Panama hat, white pants and all that, good looking, you know. And he was good looking. And he said, would I like to go to the show? Oh, I did. So I got ready real quick. He said, oh, you have plenty of time. So I did, bath and all. And anyway, I don't know what the show was about, but it was air conditioning, and I loved every bit of it. Isn't that funny? I didn't even remember the name of the I love that air conditioning, I'll tell you. And there.
Was the show in Pryor?
No, yeah.
In Pryor?
Yeah.
So if that was 36, how soon did you get married then?
Now then, on 1936, the fairs were going on, so, and when school started, he came down on a Saturday and wanted me to go to Muskogee Fair. So there again, I didn't know he was coming, no, we didn't have a telephone and, you know, all that stuff. So he always managed his time so we'd have plenty of time. And then the first Bonita rodeos, he took me to that. That was the first thing he took me besides the show was the rodeo at Bonita, that same August. And then after that it was everything was major, you know. And the next thing was the fair at Muskogee. And then after school started, if he had business over in this part of the southeast part of the county, he always managed to come just about the time that school was out. And the kids would say, Mr. Sam, do you think Elvis was going to come by this morning and pick us up? Wasn't that cute? It was the next year at Christmas. I went there. His mother always his mother liked to entertain. She had things to entertain with in a big house. And with not having any relatives, she invited friends. She made Christmas. She loved to do that. So she told the boys, I'd like for you to bring your girlfriends for Christmas. So we got an invitation. And did you not know, I met for the first time those other three girls. Of course, Marvin had married that September before this first Christmas. Marvin was there. She said that Marvin's going to bring his new wife in, and you boys just bring your friends in. The first time I met all those girls, and we all married, and we married the next year. We married first, December 37. We met in 36, August, December 37. All right, Ruth, the youngest boy and the youngest of the girls, married in December 41. And then her married Retha in 43. He was next to my husband. Can't you see how old he was? He was 36.
So you got married in 37. Did you go on a honeymoon?
No, I was Christian. No, we didn't have the money to. We didn't have the money to do anything, honey. I had my salary in here. And we didn't put up a housekeeping until we didn't do it any time, and we married the last day. So we put it together in 38.
It was after the Depression, but still things were...
It was still Depression. It was Depression for a long time. Actually, the Depression wasn't really over till World War II was over. That's how long everything was tied up. And you know, I had one girl out of the first year I taught and one girl out of the second year I taught that came to town and worked at the rationing office and came to my house to stay with me. And I let them stay. And both those girls are gone. but most of them are. I don't. At my birthday party, I didn't have a party this year. I didn't want it, and I tell you why. I thought it was too much work for the weather, like it was going to be. I read up on it, and I told my daughter, I said, don't. I think you're just wasting your money, your time, your energy to plan it on the 21st of December. And it turned out exactly the way I said it would be.
Mm.
Well, you know how bad the weather was in December.
Mm-hmm.
So she threw a big one when I was 90. When I say I threw a big one, she did everything.
Well, did you expect to live to 100?
You know what? At that 90th party, I didn't know I was getting old till I was 90. I didn't. That sounds crazy, but I mean that.
It snuck up on you.
I said, well, no, honey, nothing bothered me then. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've just been slowed up. I quit driving in August.
This year?
13.
I mean, 13. Wow.
Well, I still can drive, but I just don't.
And reason why?
Well, as my son said, everybody in town knows you're 100. That's what he said. So he takes me to...
Well, just get out of your way then.
Takes me to the beauty shop. That's fact.
You talked about the Great Depression. What was that like?
Rationing. If I'd known I was going to get into that, I would have brought my rationing thing out here. I can have what was rationed here and when it's everywhere, the whole 9 yards.
Mostly sugar and flour,
Oh
that
no,
sort of
mostly
thing.
everything, honey.
Everything.
Canned goods, meat, you name it, it was rationed.
Hmm.
Shoes, gasoline, cars,
And they had the ammunition plant here too, didn't they?
they built that and started in 41. And next door in town, the man that owned the house next door to us divided his house into 2 apartments. And the area superintendent lived there. And she and I became good friends in 41, and they didn't leave till 45. We had a real good relationship. She died last year. Will be a year this month.
What were some of the things you would do for fun, entertainment?
You mean, we did, now growing up, we did the simple things.
Like?
We made our own decoration for Christmas tree, for one thing. And not only was it busy work with us, but it was creative, and we had a nice decorated tree. We popped popcorn and strung it, We made chains and we saved foil, and anything was red. The Big Chief tablets had red, we saved those, and we used part of that for red decorations. And foil, we could use foil too. Everybody saved foil. And now, at Hickory Grove, when I was in the 1st and 2nd grade, they had candles on the tree. But I'm going to tell you something. There was a burnout somewhere in the state, and that stopped everybody from having real candles on the tree. That's right.
Pretty but dangerous. Yes.
Pretty but very dangerous, yes. Very, very dangerous. But 6 or 8 candles on there really made it look good. I remember them.
Did your mother do a lot of canning?
Oh, yeah. And we had one family in the neighborhood that had a lot of kids, and they really made big gardens. And so they put some money together. Well, her daddy did. Let them have I don't have, they bought the cans, I'm talking about metal cans, and they canned it. But before that, they did canning in jars. But they did it both ways. And so my mother raised a big garden, always did. And so we would take, they didn't have time. It got so that they didn't do anything on it and do other people's stuff on us. And we paid in vegetables. Peas and beans and all that.
Would they can their meat?
Well, yes. Now there's another thing, let me tell you. I think this was I was teaching, I was going to school in the summer. I came home, now this is before I was married, and Ellsworth Hammer, he went to business college in Tulsa. So he had the knowledge of livestock. When I say the knowledge of livestock, I mean to look at a cow and tell you how much it weighed. You have to get good. You have to get good on that. Well, if you're in the business, you can do that. You could almost tell if a cow has been loaded just before she comes to town with drinking water, or what she's been fed. You kind of have to calculate that. So he had the feel, and when I say that, the feel of livestock. I mean all the livestock. And you have the business mind. So he was on all the government programs, chairman of all the government programs, as young as he was. Not some old fat gray-headed man. That young, slender, did it all. So what he did, he told me this is what he did. He said he got the farmers' names from the what department of the county that takes care of that? Anyway, he got every farmer's name and he wrote them a card and tell them what day he'd be there at their place. And plenty of time for them, so they used to have everybody to have their animals up. And so he went through this. This is what you keep. This is what you sell. This over here where you have to kill. That was the cattle part. So we know they were coming. So my dad would chose the very best looking calf. You had to do it. You had to make a choice that day that he wanted us for beef. So he set that one aside, had it butchered first, hung it up and let it, had it, whatever, dripping or whatever you call it. And bring it to town, let the carcass hang for a good month. Let it cure, they call it. Then we canned it. That's another thing. When we moved, I'll stop right here. When we moved to this county when I was 14, we had neighbors. We lived on the river, but see, we had one neighbor here, one behind us, and one down just a little here. Then around the block we had two more. And then my mother told their monthly meeting. And I said, Mom, are you going to go? And she said, her being turkey, I'm surprised she didn't, but didn't. She said, no, I don't think so. And I said, do you ever care if I do? See, I was always one. My sister didn't, but I did. I said, Mom, could I go? Well, you can if you want to. You see, I could cook. I started cooking when I was 8. Mom had these kids, these other two, and she needed some help. And you always use the one that's available.
Did you farm during the drought, or were
Oh yeah, see, we had river bottom land, and my daddy got his crops out there early. They didn't all dry up, the bottom land is the farming land, the better. We're fortunate that Mom started out with a good one, and then she ended up. They made sure they got a good one down here, because they wouldn't have been happy with upland at all.
What did he grow? What was his
Corn
corn?
and oats. We've had oats to the chickens. My mother was a chicken woman, always. My mother, the Smiths, even though we're Cherokees, they were the workingest bunch you ever saw. I could tell you how they do everything, but I won't do that today.
Now, my coworker would want to know how she killed them. Did she have a method for slaughtering them?
Let me tell you. Now she would say, we didn't can chicken, we had chicken all the time. If she wanted a certain one, she had a wire thing that she fixed on the end of a stick and catch that. And I learned to do it this way, wring their necks.
Wring their neck.
Had you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I could not only that, I could pluck the chicken and I could cut it up. Now,
Not too many people can do that today.
I learned that, honey. I learned that. Well, let's see. I didn't do that at 8, but I did it pretty quick after that. I learned to make bread at 8. I learned to make a cake at 8. I cooked my mother's birthday dinner when I was 10. I mean, I did everything when I was 10.
How did they do the laundry? Wash floor.
Now, when I was down at Zena, Mama had a washing machine that my daddy had to do she had 3 kids, you know, like one in diapers and one and a baby coming up, so she had to have help. So my daddy would do the agitator. I remember seeing it was wood, and it was on the outside of it. We didn't move that out because when we left Zeno, our house burned. And burned all. It didn't burn Mom's washing machine. Mom had a brand new Singer sewing machine, a really nice one, and it got some holes burned in it. That didn't stop it from being a good machine, though. Now that's one of the things that I remember we had nice is a cook stove, the cream separator, and the buffet and the real nice piece of merchandise the buffet was. And let's see, she had rail lamps. We had really good beds and bedclothes. We used to good bedclothes. And I said the cook stove. We had a few things that were really nice, and the sewing machine.
Was it a pedal sewing machine?
Yeah.
So she made your clothes and
Yeah.
everyone else.
You bet.
Did she quilt?
She didn't quilt. She didn't much like to do that. She made comforters, tacked them. Yeah. It was quicker, warmer. Quilts are cold and comforters are warm.
And for refrigeration?
You know, we were fortunate down here to have the iceman to come by every day when we were on the river. He had a route. Well, as I told you, there's several in the settlement. That made a difference in one here and a mile down the road yonder and another mile over yonder. Because if there's one here and 2 or 3 blocks down here, and that's the way they were. The land was back toward the river.
Did you have very many traveling salesmen come by?
Oh, we had people wanting something to eat and say, oh, we'd just love to do something for something to eat.
Hobos.
Every day Mom would make extra everything. And she could hardly stand for little kids not to have plenty to eat. And I tell you what, I've seen many a car, even in my sleep, loaded with kids and stuff on top of the cars. Going back to mamas and papas or grandmas and grandmas. We get the whole story while they were there. But they didn't turn back a person. She's even sent milk with them. You can't beat that.
No, you can't.
Let me tell you about Grandpa Hammer. As I told you, they had lots of everything. I'd like to go get the picture. Hoot. He's not here. Anyway, I have a picture of Mr. Hammer's sale in 1908. But during the Depression years, he'd have the boys, he'd say, Ellsworth or Clarence, or I want you to take this milk cow over to so-and-so. See, cattle were selling at 2 cents a pound. 2 cents a pound. And so they sold the good stuff, but the milk cows they never sold. He spread it out, 2 dozen milk cows over the countryside that didn't have a cow. And all they went is to find some food for the cows. So they give them milk for the family. Milk cows. Now how you like that? So I'm going to tell you something. He'll be rewarded. So help me. You're very, very generous. They all were generous. If somebody needed something, they got it. If they went to the Hammers. Mrs. Hammer came from Sweden, the old country. She got her education in Kansas City at the Swede school. Mr. Hammer is Dutch. So.
You wonder how they ended up here.
I told you Mr. Hammer was.
Oh, looking around.
Oh, he
Yes,
was
he
looking for
scouted
a place
around.
to settle.
That's right.
He wanted a deal of his own,
Right.
and that ranch is a section.
It sounds like you had a good relationship with your in-laws.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Hammer thought I couldn't do no wrong. See, Lillian.
His son married the right woman.
Yeah, let me tell you something. See, when Marvin married and brought his wife in, her name was Hammer to begin with, but she wasn't. She was a white, and she's from one of those foreign countries. I can't remember right now, but she came. Her parents couldn't even speak English. Miss Hammer, Mr. Hammer, Miss Hammer went to their wedding. They couldn't understand a word that the mother and daddy said. Not a word.
Was religion very important when
Oh,
you were
yeah.
growing up?
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, yes. Now, where I grew up, till we moved to Mays County, we lived in an area, it was non-denominational, so there wasn't any racket. Anybody come along that wanted to preach, they allowed them. And that was one of the things that we never missed. Brush arbor, in the summertime, brush arbor meetings. You know what a brush arbor is, don't
You
you?
could tell us. I have a vague idea.
Well, what's your bag? Just tell me what you think.
No, you tell me.
No, I want your interpretation of a brush arbor.
A brush arbor.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to know. Have you ever seen one?
No.
Well, let me tell you what it is. They absolutely, I guess you'd say they've staked it or put up or dug up. And if it's natural, they'll whittle up trees, take all the limbs off, and create one, if there's a lot of timber, create one, and then put a top across it, and limbs and all that stuff on top of that. And that's the brush arbor. Brush arbor.
And why would they do that though?
Well, they wanted it to have their meetings
Under it?
underneath it.
Okay, like for shade or?
For
okay.
shade, and then I don't know why they felt like they didn't want open skies over them. We always at the brush arbor. And everybody came in because we were going to have a meeting. It didn't make any difference if it was Lutheran or if it was the ones out west, Mormons. Sure did. I've heard a lot of Mormons. And they was as welcome as they could be. Nobody fussed, nobody. And Sunday school was a good deal every Sunday. And if we didn't have a minister that came by, we had several of the men in the neighborhood that could take charge.
And what would your Sunday meal be after church?
Oh, good dinner.
A good dinner.
And you know what? And what? Fried chicken most of the time.
That's what.
No, we had ham at certain times, and now we didn't ever buy a turkey. We didn't buy turkeys. Mom didn't have, we didn't raise turkeys, we didn't, and you didn't have much if you didn't raise. And we had beef because we raised the beef. But most of the time, until we raised, somebody would butcher and then pass it through the neighborhood, and you bought whatever you wanted. And then they would just slice it off. And if you wanted steak, my daddy usually bought a piece of steak so she could fry it and then a roast. Now that's what he'd buy off the wagon. But they would butcher a good beef.
How about politics?
Well, my mother and daddy she said, girls, your daddy would turn in his grave if he knew his son-in-laws weren't strong Democrats like we are.
So that means you didn't vote for Henry Bellman when he was running for governor.
I did vote for Bellman. Yeah. I'm not a Democrat. My daddy doesn't know that. And my mother don't either.
That's a family secret.
That's his family secret. But I'm going to tell you something. I have a boy that's died, and he thinks even Obama has done no wrong. Oh. We don't fuss about it.
Well, I want to know, your birthday's on December 31st. You must have had some pretty memorable birthdays.
I had, as I told you, I didn't know I was old till I was 90.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest one I had. I know I haven't. My birthdays was combined with Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yes. So it was a bad deal.
You never got to stay up to midnight?
I stayed up more than midnight this year. I think it was 2 o'clock before we ever piped down. I think that's right. And it was my daughter, her son, her two kids, my niece at Choto, and others that went home earlier than that. Yeah, we cut one of the cakes at midnight.
I was going to say that would be your birthday.
Oh, I had cakes, and I had the day of my birthday. See, I didn't have a party. People just came that wanted to come.
Growing up, though, with your birthday being on New Year's Eve, it wasn't much
No,
extra.
You know, and country people, a long time ago, didn't try to make a big deal out of New Year's Eve. That came along about into my adulthood. But my adulthood came early, because I never had a childhood life. That's a fact. Didn't have time for it.
New Year's Eve came along with Dick Clark and the dropping of the
Oh yeah,
ball
yeah,
in Times Square.
that like that. So you came in that, you remember all that stuff.
And Lawrence Welk.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we used to.
Do much dancing, or was music at
Oh,
at
yeah.
a part?
No, I was going to say what was
At
what did you do for entertainment?
At Grandpa and Grandma's house, They were musicians, as I told you a while ago. My mother could play by ear, and she had a sister that could play the organ by ear, and so they had an organ and 2 or 3 kinds of violins guitars and violins. She had 2 brothers that really was good. Mom was one of 11. My daddy's one of 9. But I knew both my grandparents on my mother's grandmother and daddy both.
They have square dances or
Oh yeah,
round
they had square dances. And the night before we moved to Mays County when I was 14, they had a square dance at our house. They just come in and moved the furniture and got with it. We had no idea they was going to do it. They took care of the dining room pretty quick.
Do you remember seeing your first car?
Yes. We had friends that had cars before we ever got a car. We didn't get one until 27. The year before we moved down here.
Did you ever drive a truck?
A pickup.
Pickup.
My daddy bought a new pickup in 1934. Now, he had to be pretty prosperous to do that. And I was taught to drive when I was 14. And then when he got the new pickup, I drove it. I even drove my basketball team to Pryor to the tournament. My daddy would put hay down in the bed, and then a tarpaulin over that, and then another tarpaulin to put over the kids, and we put it as many in the cab that could get in it. And I would drive them like Graham about 5 miles, and then or 6 miles to our house, then on to Shoto, then up the highway up here, and get up here by 9 o'clock. Yeah, that's pioneering, isn't it?
But you played on the basketball team?
Oh yes, I did. I played on the basketball team when I was at Hickory Grove. I tell you what, exercise is it. If you get it in early days, the better, and the more you get. Now, I wasn't a very good runner. For one thing, we lived on the hill, as I told you. And if I run, I just gained momentum as I went down. And you don't do that and flip about once and you're over that. You learn that you can't do it. So I wasn't a very good runner, but I could play basketball. We had volleyball and basketball both at Hickory Grove. And at Hickory Grove, I could very well remember when I was 6th grade, I was on the team. I never had a still moment.
Did they play outside?
Walking to school, playing at school, you see. And when I was in high school, I played on the. And when my daughter went to high school, it was kind of a no-no, over here in Pryor. The girls didn't play basketball. And so consequently, she missed that. When I went to college, I took the athletic part too. And I didn't go through the year down there, only one. And they didn't let you take the athletic part. If you were going to get a teaching, they put you in games, so you could do these things on the ground. They were trying to see, we have 6 teachers' college. Northeastern is a teachers' college. Edmond is a teachers' college. Well, they had 6. And that was their business, is to educate the teachers. So if they knew that you was going to go right out in the classroom, they wanted you to have that kind of a mix instead of basketball. But I had basketball, so I knew basketball. I can't remember when I didn't know basketball.
What kind of uniform did you have to wear?
Oh, when we played on the team, well, we had shorts. Believe it or not.
Not bloomers.
We had bloomers when I went to high school.
Huh. Was it half court or full court for the girls?
Full court. No. You're talking about playing.
Yeah, basketball.
Yeah. It was half court. Now, when we went in grade school, it seemed to me like that we played all over the court.
Was it outside or inside?
Well, when it came to town, we played inside. And out at Hickory Grove, we played outside.
Okay.
Well, all the rural schools had to play outside. We didn't have a gymnasium to go to.
On a dirt.
Uh-huh.
Dirt.
Dirt.
So what do you attribute your longevity to?
Well, exercise is one of them. I really believe that. I get more exercise. I've always gotten more exercise than either one of my kids or either one of my sisters. And another thing, we ate plain food, wholesome food. And you know, when you eat what you raise. Right now, these people that raise this stuff, they just run and get it down there. In Tulsa, there's all over the town, there's different places where you can get the fresh stuff on Saturday morning. Different farmers come in and bring their stuff and set up. And they're open so many hours a day on Saturday. So that's, I think maybe our lifestyle that covers all that, doesn't it?
And do you exercise every day today?
Well, but I'm able to walk.
Well,
And when I go to the beauty shop, in order for me to stay in the seat, I put my feet in the seat. There's nobody else can even do that. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I don't leave my feet. I put my feet in the seat.
uh-huh.
I'm not sure I can do that.
Well, I do. Instead of sliding out, I have to do that. I can see, I don't have a very long neck, so I managed to do this, get myself back as far as I can. And then, if I get myself back as far as I can, I just put my feet in there, and in the beauty shop, so I won't fall out. That's and hit me.
Now I assume you said you didn't drive, or is that right?
I don't drive now, no.
So what's a typical day like for you? What time do you wake up? What do you do? What time do you go to bed? Do you have people run errands for you? Do you
Now
have
this
help?
girl here, she made my errands today. She didn't make as many as I wanted to.
So you have a person that runs errands for you during the day?
No, I just have help 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I have a girl that's going to come between around 4, and I'll tell you what she's going to help me do. I have to delete or get rid of some tax records because the tax man said I had to keep 5 years. I really think some of them say 2. They're getting it less. It used to be 9, don't you remember? But anyway, I have a lot of bills for us. I haven't thrown away one. So I have a filing cabinet that we're going to take it down to the tax people, and they're going to get rid of it for me. He told me he would. All I have to do is sack it up, go to the back door, and they'll take care of it. And of course he said it'd be free, but I'm not going to let it be free. I'll be so gracious to get it done, taken care of. The shredder will come.
Well, what time do you usually get up in the morning to start your day?
Well, let's see. Sometimes I sleep in. And when I sleep in, most of the time I get up about 7. If it's a really a dreary, cold day, I may, after I had a cup of coffee, I might go back to the sofa. But most of the time I don't. And when I get up, I just more or less, I don't ever go around and never show up in my nightwear.
You're ready to go for the day.
Well, usually, yeah.
And what time do you usually go to sleep?
I wouldn't, if I was you, if you wanted to talk to me, you could talk about any time you wanted till 11.
Now, do you have at 100, do you have a philosophy of life or a motto that you live by?
Nope. I just kind of rest on my laurels, I guess you'd say.
Anything on your wish list you haven't done yet? Bucket list?
Oh, yes, I'd like to cruise the Rhine River again. I would like, I'm sorry I didn't get to go to Alaska, but not that sorry. But that's one of the things I'd like. I'm sorry I didn't make a trip to Mississippi to see my friend that I knew back since 1941. I was in a position I could have, but the time I didn't do it, I was busy with extracurricular activities. I belonged to the Business Professional Women's Club for many years. I was not only the treasurer, it's not kosher for a treasurer to be treasurer more than one time at a time, but I was treasurer about 11. Well, I kept good books. That's for one thing. Back even whenever interest was like 17%. I remember one wide mouth woman, beautician, I gave the treasurer's report, and she piped up and said, "Well, I'm not for locking in our money at 17%. She liked it because it was different every day, you know." And so another one that was kind of a little louder than she was, and probably had a little bit more of a stance. And she said, "I'm supporting Elizabeth," said, "I think she knows best." And sure enough, I did know best. 17% wasn't bad to have it locked in. And we gave scholarships, and I loved that doing. We didn't let the school dominate the scholarships. We did more or less surveying ourselves. We let all the club give us ideas on who they liked. And so we kind of passed it around like the men. See, we have a Mennonite settlement up here. And so their offspring needed it pretty bad, so we kind of let, in other words, we chose them. We loved that program. We gave a lot of money away. We worked through the year doing different projects to get our money, and we had about 50 members. And so I have some state people that I work with, say like 20 and 25 and 30 years, we still are good friends. Can't beat that. Now some of them are living. One died last year. She was on dialysis. But the one that I have had the longest, she's kind of in assisted living. Well, I would call it assistant living. I don't want to go to assistant living. I don't want to go to the rest home. I don't know whether I'll get to do it or not, but I'm going to choose to stay right here. That's my brother's.
I'd say you might make it.
Yeah.
So do you do a Christmas card list every year?
You bet.
How many's on your list?
Huh?
How many's on your list?
Well, to be real honest, I got over 200 cards for Christmas and my
My gosh.
birthday. And on my list is 100 and something. It's kind of choosy, but I buy nice cards. I've always done it this way. Buy nice cards. I've got my Christmas list for years on end. One of these days it'll go in. I'm saving right now, and I've been doing this for a number of months, years. The bookstore down here, new and used, his family are in helping. We have 3 missionaries in Nepal, and we gave them $4,000 this Christmas. There's 2 families, and so we're working on $4,000 to give them coming up. And I save all my paper. I'm talking about newspaper across the world. I get it every day. I work Sudoku every day. You know what that is, don't you?
I do.
Now they got a new one coming out. I haven't figured out a thing with it. I'm so screwed up, I don't know what to do. Somebody needs to tell me how to start. And I'll tell you, not many know how to start Sudoku, so I can't find it out locally. Really and truly, there isn't.
So then, are you a Jeopardy fan? No. Do you read books?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a particular kind that you like? Biography,
Well-
fiction, nonfiction?
No, I kind of like reality. If I think there's anything that's real in it. Or borderline of it even. And I pay $35 a year and get the Justice, magazine. And it tells me what's going on. I do like to know what's going on. I fear for the generation coming up. Do you guys have any fear of the way the trend's going?
We were talking about it in the car, so yes, we
It
do.
scares me to death. My grandson has 2 kids coming up. The little boy he lives with his mother in Houston. And his mother's is a teacher. But she and the daddy got a divorce, I think it's in 2005. And that's not good, but I didn't have anything to do with it. And the little boy is so wholesome. He said he takes keyboard and violin and home ec besides his other.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, he said he loved all of it. He's 12 years old. He is such a... And anything, he said, maybe don't worry about that, I just roll with it.
Sounds like he got that from you. He
Well-
just rolls with it.
Well, anything you can't do anything about, you just better set it aside and not worry about it, because you can't do anything about it anyway. And that is a good philosophy. Get it.
Yeah.
Now, my daughter worries to pieces. Well, these kids are hers, you see. Her son and her grandkids. Hoot,
What?
bring me Grandpa's sale picture.
All right.
I want you to see this.
Hoot.
That's my boy. His name's Ellsworth Hoot.
His name
Hoot was the name of Mr. Jackson. Mr. Hammer was...
So it's not a nickname then. It's
No,
not.
it's his real name. So don't make fun of it.
I don't. I won't. Just figure it's smart. You
Now,
think of an
now,
owl.
He
Smart.
has his MBA from OU. So he's not...
Well, we won't mention that then.
Okay, here's Grandpa Hammer's sale in 1918. And I want him to see it too, and minutely.
I'm always amazed by I find names interesting. People have some interesting names. They're very family oriented.
Well, let me tell you something.
Historical.
Now, there's been families that have shown he was the
He was selling mules.
He sold everything. He had cows and everything else.
My gosh.
Read all of it and soak it in. Goes down to the very bottom.
What's the biggest challenge to being at 100?
Don't know.
Is there one?
You know,
Not being able to drive, I guess.
well, no, I can't worry about that. I could go out there and drive right now, just really as well as I did last August. But I know definitely that I couldn't continue it. But when he said, you know, I think if I was you, I'd just kind of watch it, he said. Not that you can't do it, but he said, everybody knows you're 100. Well, you haven't lived anywhere else, you know.
Yeah. So this is home?
Yep.
This is home?
We built this house in 1969. I believe it's 44 or 45 years old.
Once served by the Red Cross. It was such a big sale, the Red Cross had to come out and serve dinner.
Out on the ranch house. Now the ranch house isn't 2-story now. The grandson took it down to the very bottom and redone it and put it in brick. It's the same floor plan, but he put it back up in brick.
Anything else you want to ask before
Well, I want to know, when history is written, what do you want it to say about you?
What do you want me to say?
How do you want to be remembered?
How do you want to be remembered? What do you want people to remember?
Maybe you better tell it. I don't really know how I want to be remembered.
She's rolled with it.
That's Jeffrey's words. Oh, maybe he said, "Don't worry about that. I just roll with it." But he was so happy to tell how many things he could cook, and I think that's good.
That's very good.
His sister doesn't know a thing about cooking, and my sisters didn't either when they married even, because I did it instead. See.
Anything else you want to add before we cut the camera off?
What do you want me to say, and I'll say it.
What's been the highlight?
Don't know.
Advice for anyone else that wants to live to 100?
Well, I just told you, I think exercise and your lifestyle.
Has humor played a role?
Oh, yeah. I think the best thing is to be positive about everything. If you take I say this, worrying about everybody should be concerned, I think, is the way it's going down. I really do. And I tell you, it's become that way little by little. Don't you think? Or do you think?
It's your story, so we're not supposed to say on
I'm not
tape.
supposed to talk.
You're the star of this show.
Well, I'm not very much of a star.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your story with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Do I have very much of a story?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one more story.
Okay.
When I was 10 years old, the reason why I say that, my youngest sister's birthday was May the 24th. She always said, May the 24th is my birthday, May, little song. So we lived at Grove. We lived across the river from Grove. Now when I say across the river, see, Grove is 4 miles to the river, and we lived on the river. So we really lived 4 miles from north of Grove. Mm-hmm. You see that now. And beginning in the spring, you could ford the river. That's even before the feedlot stuff was started. May, you don't deliver anything in May. And so Mother wanted to go over to Grove and buy piece goods, so she could start with her sewing for the fall, when she wasn't canning or gardening or this or that. So she would have to bring, see, everything was homemade. I mean, everything. So she wanted to buy piece goods. So she and I went to Grove in the wagon, Springfield wagon. We had a good one. I can just see those green painted seats up there. And when I say spring, it had springs under the seat. So when you hit a rock, it didn't jolt you. It just did this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We didn't call it fording the river. We just crossed the river. So we were over there, and the Grove then was sort of like wood streets and wood steps out of the stores on it. So as we stepped out, I don't know who the man was, but he knew us. Mom knew him probably. Rachel, he said, "Are you over here in the wagon?" She said, "Yes." He said, "If you expect to get home like you came, you're going to have to go right now." We didn't go into another store. We went right to the wagon yard and went to the river. He said, the reason why I say that, the river's on the rise. They've had a big rain upstream. Well, upstream means around Miami, and it took a while to get down to Grove. So there wasn't any signs of anything when we went over, just natural. And when we got to the river, debris was on top of the river. Mom got out of the wagon, tied the wagon box down. Now you know what I'm talking about, but you always have your ropes to tie your wagon box down. Mm-hmm. The wagon box is the wagon. So she tied them down both sides. And she told me, she says, "Now you hang on, and you hang steady," she said. And we crossed that river, debris on the rise, like this. The team swam, and just every little bit, the wagon rims would hit the rock. And we crossed the river. Mom was driving. Mom was 22 years older than me, so if she was 22 and I was 10, that made her 32. So there's the little, she was little. She told me, "Hold steady." And we made it across it. And the river is much wider when it's on the rise than it is when you cross it to start in with. Mm. Now, I'll never forget that. My mother and me. We didn't get ice that day. Now, we didn't have an ice route there, but we did here. Farrell was disappointed she didn't give it ice. We had homemade ice cream that held half a gallon, just enough for the little family.
And how often did you have that?
Oh, anytime we could get a hold of any ice.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty regular, because we could cross the river in the summertime. We was closer to Grove than anybody else. We was practically in Grove's backyard. It made it handy when you could drive over the rocks and get there. But I don't want more swimming. That's scary, honey. That's the last I know about it. I've told you the outstanding thing with my mother.
Well, then hold fast and steady then. Thank you.